All right, I'll just put them down for a second. I've got to talk to you about something. I've got a problem. I absolutely love buying books. Personal development, psychology, business, productivity, memoirs, novels, you name it. Every time I buy a book, I imagine that person I'm about to become more knowledgeable, more focused, more inspired, more well-read. And then what happens? The book goes onto this beautiful growing pile, and night after night, instead of reading, I somehow, weirdly, oddly, end up scrolling Instagram instead, watching Netflix instead, researching a new plant for my garden, or filling an online shopping cart with things I definitely don't need at 11 p.m. So, for the longest time, I thought I really had a motivation problem. Then I realized something, and this is important. I don't have a motivational problem or a reading problem. I have a friction problem. So today I want to share 3 simple things that I have tested that genuinely help me read more. It's not perfect, but at this point, I just wanted to have the feeling that I'm reading again, that I'm getting into the flow of opening these books, actually having time, looking at them, looking forward to them, and not just getting more and more frustrated by that pile I see out of the corner of my eye. So let's go through those 3 points, and I bet at least one of them will help you read more too. Point 1, we need to reduce the friction. Let me tell you, I love having books around the house, in the bookshelf, on a pile, but what I lacked was a place to actually read them. On the sofa, my daughter, my dog, everyone would join me. Or I would get comfortable on the sofa and think like, ooh, I would love to read this book now. But then on the pile next to the sofa, it wasn't there. It was on my nightstand, on the bookshelf, or somewhere else. They were just scattered around the house. And I realized I need to reduce the friction to reading my books. What I changed in my setup at home was that I created this dedicated reading corner. It's a comfortable chair, it's a nice reading lamp, and the books are already waiting there, and some magazines as well. So I have choice of the mood I'm in, what do I want to read today, and I'll definitely get into something. And the other thing I did to even remove friction more is to put the lamp on an automatic timer. So every evening around 8 p.m., the light comes on automatically. So the reading corner is ready even before I am. When my daughter goes to bed, I go back to the living room. It's there, inviting me in. I had to really stop relying on motivation and had to design the right environment for me. Because when something is easier to start, you're far more likely to do it. Have you ever heard the saying, the heaviest weight at the gym is the door? That is friction, right? If you can't even get in, or if it's so exhausting already to go in, then you're likely to just not even think about going. So once you're over that threshold, once that corner is sitting there, a lovely comfy chair, a pile of nice books and magazines, the lights are on, literally, I have to do nothing. Just sit down and read. Magic. Obviously, this doesn't fix everything, right? Because not every day at 8 p.m. I'm ready to read. So this is what brings me to point 2. We need to also schedule reading into our days. And you've heard this with workouts before or other habits you want to start. You need to slot them in somewhere in your day because otherwise you'll never get around to doing them. For years and years, I kept telling myself, I'll have 15 minutes every day to read. This sounds sensible, realistic, It never happened because if I missed one day, then I tell myself, oh, tomorrow I'll do 30 minutes, then 45. Now I'm at about 8,000 minutes. So this has never worked. So I had to change that approach of tricking myself. So instead of trying to read every day now, I'm trying to be realistic and I pick one evening per week. One evening. One. We have to underestimate when we want to start a new habit, not overestimate and disappoint ourselves. We have to go lower the bar so you actually do it. So one evening a week where I don't watch TV, where I don't meet friends, where I'm not multitasking or squeezing it in with other things, just reading. For me, might be a Tuesday evening. For you, might be a Sunday afternoon. Doesn't matter. Just choose the day. If your reading corner is lit up, you'll be ready on that day, on that hot date you have with your books. So the key thing I want you to take away from this point 2 is stop trying to fit reading into your life but give reading an actual place in your schedule. Those are actually two very different things. All right, let's get to point 3. This is about dopamine, and cheap dopamine, to be specific. That was the biggest game changer for me, because the real competition for my time isn't books. The real competition for my time is cheap dopamine. Social media, online shopping, random internet rabbit hole, researching stuff you absolutely don't need to research at 11 p.m. I know, because this is me. And what I've changed is that I moved all my dopamine apps off my home screen. Instagram, Amazon, anything that sucks me in when I unlock my phone, when I lie down in bed at 11 p.m. and should go to sleep, and then still think like, ooh, I should check my phone. When I unlock my phone on the main screen, I will not see those apps. They will not be easily accessible. I added in friction. In point 1, we remove friction for ourselves. Now we add in friction for the things we don't want to do. So anything that sucks me in is gone from my first screen. Instead, the things I see on my first screen are Calm, other meditation apps or banking apps, things that either calm me down or remind me not to spend money. So now when I unlock my phone, the easiest thing to do is actually something good for me. What I want you to action is add friction to the habits that you want less of and remove friction from the habits you want more of. So it turns out that that tiny amount of friction matters a lot more than most people think. We're all creatures of habit. We're all a little bit lazy. We all want that easy, accessible stuff. So switching on a light might be too much friction for you to start reading, and having Instagram on the second page might be too much friction for you to go and end up doom scrolling till 1 a.m. So use the way you are wired to actually help yourself. And in the end, what surprises me is that this was never really about reading. Reading was just the symptom. The real lesson for me, at least, was that the person I want to become doesn't show up because I buy another book. The person doesn't show up because I make another plan, because I make myself feel guilty. The person I want to become, she shows up when I make it easier to do the things that matter and harder to do the things that don't. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Often we're just taught that personal growth is about becoming a different person. But more and more, I think that's not really true. I think growth is more about designing a life where the version of you that already exists has a fighting chance to show up. Not because you push yourself harder or try to be perfect or have the biggest willpower, but through integration, through really creating an environment and routines and systems that support who you want to be. So if you've got a pile of unread books sitting next to your bed right now, maybe you don't need more motivation or discipline. Maybe you just need a little less friction. And I'd love to know this. What is one thing you've been meaning to do more of that keeps losing to scrolling? Tell me in the comments below.